Hello and welcome back to another episode of Voice of the Rings. We're doing a Rise to War Legacy, my friends, and we have Jethro's here again. I know you saw our last one. I hope you enjoyed it. Well, we're going to do another one today, guys. We are going to do Dain, King Under the Mountain today, and it'll be a blast. Hope you like and subscribe, and I hope you enjoy the video. Jethro's again with us, so everyone give a round of applause.
I'm so excited to hear about dwarves from the Dwarven expert.
Yes, I know. Oh my gosh, we just sat and studied for like an hour on Dain. He is a crazy one. So we're gonna just quickly start from the top here. He's a warrior, so again, warriors get a little bonus to some scaling stats and different things, right? Pretty nice, pretty nice. Some physical damage and all those goodies. But control, he obviously is a might-focused character. Most of the dwarf characters are might-focused for physical damage. Let's quickly do his background just for fun, shall we? All right. Dain Ironfoot is the lord of the dwarves of the Iron Hills and the 5th king under the mountain, a fantastic fighter and a proficient leader. His deeds are praised throughout Middle-earth. He's known to be friendly with the neighboring Manish kingdoms of the Dale, and the Elven Woodland realm, which is Mirkwood, from where Legolas is, and Thranduil. But again, you guys, very accurate description that he is a profound leader and fighter, because his kit reflects that, as me and Jethro's worked on a lot. Make sure that's not. All right, so again, real quick, if you are going to get him rank 10, his special helm, it is fantastic. It works very well with his King Under the Mountain rank 5 ability. So it helps protect your when your highest person gets hit by damage, tanky unit, right? Like Guardians, if you're using Guardians. Whoever's your highest defense, if they get hit by a thing, it stacks his physical damage increase. Basically, it's pretty dang awesome. But anyway, let's get right into it. So the big thing that we had to break down for you guys, since there are multiple building paths for Dain, and we're actually going to go, I actually own him, so we're going to go to the other one, the other page. He is very good at doing damage as a more of a glass cannon type of character like Gimli, and he's got multiple build paths with that, so we'll talk about those. And he's also extremely good at buffing his dwarves and being a leader character. So that's another big one that me and Jethro's really worked on and talked about. So again, we are going to pop into the actual character thing since I own him. We hear it, Dol Amroth. You're not going to ever know where my base is. All right. Anyway, probably moved when you see this video anyway. But we're going to go over here to Dain. And again, he's only level 43. I don't have him maxed yet this part of the season, but that is okay. So just know I would have 7 more points. And wherever you guys are in respect, I know he is a tier 3. You might not have him high respect. I'm at almost 7. So just know I have an extra 6 points as well. But let's go ahead and talk. We're going to talk about his defense tree first. So I'm going to go ahead and let Jethros explain the defense tree if you were rank 5. And then we'll talk about it if you were rank 1 and you just got it. So let's start with rank 5, Jethro.
Okay. So we're going to do, with the army-focused kind of defensive, we're going to have Lord of the Iron Hills, which is basically going to make it so that the normal attack damage of melee units are increased by up to, what's that going to be, 30% at max?
It's really good.
And then when you max it, it also affects all Dwarven units, so you're probably going to run like axe throwers in the back for that extra damage boost, and they're going to hit insanely hard especially against other melee units, right? Because they have extra bonus damage.
You probably could just go ahead and do a full 3 dwarf squad, right?
Yeah.
Guardians, Ram Riders, Axe Throwers, and that would be beautiful.
Yeah, definitely easy.
And then so there's also Fortify if you were defending, but you're going to leave this one out. You're not going to use this one. You're going to probably be using, though, Dwarven Leader, obviously. Right. It's pretty self-explanatory.
Absolutely.
With that, your dwarves take less damage and do more damage. Great, right? Perfect. Now, the next one is, if you're going to be doing buffing your units, King Under the Mountain if you're rank 5, you guys. This is amazing. He's going to do more damage. He's going to be the stacking buff to defend your dwarves, and also they're going to get more HP when you have that max. So you have to max this out.
That's
too.
Huge.
It's monstrously good. So that's his more defensible thing. Now you're saying, oh, well, if I'm rank 5, I probably have more points at 50. Well, if you have more points, what do you think? Probably the best, we were talking about this, probably the best is maybe some points in Ironfoot, right? Because you're more supporting your dwarves.
Yeah, I believe so.
And a point in Open Wound.
Yeah, just
right?
1 point
to get the debuff.
Wound.
So you're kind of supporting with the stun and the debuff.
Yep.
And then just maybe extra points in this. You could toss maybe Vengeance, but that seems kind of a waste. Probably just Ironfoot, right?
Yeah.
At that point,
I think we were talking about actually putting points in Dwarven Grit with this build.
could
though.
as well. Yeah, with the dwarven. Yeah, just to get the extra instances of King Under the Mountain damage.
Yep.
So that will roll nicely into our next thing. So now that is if you're doing a more of a defensive, like dwarven supporting your units build. If you're going to do a build that relies and focuses on damage in this case, right? Again, Dwarven Grit will still be great with the defensive Lord of the Iron Hills and King Under the Mountain because it'll have King Under the Mountain get an extra boost and Ironfoot over and over for those first 4 instances of their damage. Again, what does it do? This is really important so people don't get confused. The first 4 instances of damage, any damage, and this is a really good point Jethro pointed out. If they dodge your ability, it doesn't count. This won't trigger, right? That's
Right.
we already talked about that. So if you're thinking about the orders of your abilities, if you're using multiple different skills, because Dain has a lot of skills. Again, a skill versus a passive thing, right? A skill will say in the top here, skill. So for example, Vengeance is a skill. Ironfoot is technically a skill because it does a hit, even though it says a title. It's a little confusing, but it's the title, but it's a skill. Open Wound is a skill. Whirlwind is a skill. All In is a skill. King Under the Mountain technically counts as a skill. So just so you know, you have to think about that with Dwarven Grit. But before you freak out in that moment, since we kind of talked about you'll be using that possibly with buffing your dwarves, now let's talk about a few damage builds with him where you're not using Lord of the Iron Hills, that you'll be doing damage. So I'm going to let Jethro's take over for this one. So do you want, let's start with the one, if you're rank 5, you have rank 5, and you want to focus using Dwarven Grits.
Yeah.
So I'll let you talk out the skills and I'll click while you talk.
So the benefit of using the Dwarven Grit skill is that you're going to do damage, most of your damage really early on. So you're going to front load damage, which is awesome because the less armies the enemy has, the less damage they'll do basically to your units. So with you'd put 15 points into King Under the Mountain, 7 points into Dwarven Grit. I'm sorry, 7 points. Did I say 17?
No, you said it. 7.
Okay,
You said 7.
And then Ironfoot, you'd put 15 points, and Durin's Blood, we were doing 15 points because Durin's Blood's just going to add skill damage. The Dwarven Grit's going to add skill damage, and the only abilities that are triggering the skill damage will be King Under the Mountain and Ironfoot, which would basically be 4 triggers, and the Ironfoot in particular would trigger Oz Rush, so it would go in the first round. And then round 2, your King Under the Mountain would hit. Then round 3, nothing would hit. And then in round 4, King Under the Mountain would hit and Ironfoot would hit on the same time, which makes it so that you're using all those instances of Dwarven Grit. And of course, they're all those hits are going to be boosted by Doran's Blood and Dwarven Grit. So you're getting a total of 85% extra damage on those skills, and that damage is all being front loaded. So that's awesome. You're not waiting around for extra triggers later on, which we find a lot of the times early damage is better than late damage.
Yeah, we have found that. And I'm going to add to that too, because that was a really good explanation. So one thing we found, if you're asking the question well, what if I want to use Whirlwind because I have extra points? We found that Whirlwind does trigger Dwarven Grit twice. So it'll mess up your chain of your damage from King Under the Mountain and Ironfoot, triggering on the first 4 instances of damage. You can do that if you want to try that as a trick. You can try that. So again, though, I think what I would recommend if they have extra points is probably dropping in Open Wounds because it will trigger on round 4. And we have a trick for you guys. This is something that we talked about on Gimli. It matters when you put in points, the first point in a skill on the tree. Well, you put them in. So as you're putting them in. So it does matter in the lineup. So for example, with Dain, many of his skills trigger on round 4. So if you want to use Grit efficiently, what you're going to do with the build he just explained to you, I'm going to do it for you so you can see it happening, okay? So you're going to max out King of the Mountain first. So max the thing out, right? Just keep going. Again, it's a little laggy, I'm sorry. It's just the program we're using on the computer. It's a little
Make
laggy.
sure you're using Ram Riders.
Yes, Ram Riders are amazing with him. For that very reason, you might be asking, why don't you use Longbeard, is what Jethro is talking about. And the very reason is because it does a diminishing returns if you're using the Dwarven Ram Riders, and realistically, it's better to just have your skill damage. if they're breaking the defenses for you most of the time anyway. And then now you're going to max out grit, right? Just go ahead and max out grit. This is if you're using the grit build with the special Jethro build I like to build. So now, for order-wise, we put point in the Ironfoot, right?
Yep.
So go ahead and just max out Ironfoot. You don't need to worry about it yet, right? So again, you definitely do. It does matter, though, to put in King Under the Mountain before Open Wound, though, right? Because yes, so that's important.
It matters a little bit here, yes, because you're doing the Open Wound. Yeah.
Exactly. If you're using Open Wound. If you're not going to use Open Wound, that's fine. We're talking about, again, we don't want to trigger Dwarven Grit early. We want to try to get the hits all on these ones in the first 4. So that's the goal, right? So the last point, now that you have points in those, you could fill up Durin's Blood for skill damage, but then toss in your 1 point into Open Wound, right? So you're going to toss that point in, but now that you toss that point in last, you can max that out more if you want. That will trigger on round 4 after King Under the Mountain and Ironfoot does. I know it's a little weird, but that's super important, especially for the next thing we're going to talk about.
Yeah.
Right, with damage. So that's the big one. So now you would also fill out Dwarven Durin's Blood, right, for skill damage. And you don't have to worry about this one unless you're going to use Whirlwind or All In. So we'll talk about this a little bit more now. So
you're talking about maxing Open Wound, though, right? Because they want to make sure that you get the full trigger of the Dwarven Grit on Open Wound.
If we're just focusing on a Dwarven Grit build, correct. So you could drop 2 more points in this now. Again,
you're going to have the rest of the points at rank.
Yes. And we will have more points later. And what you can do is, I will have another 7 points. You could toss in some points into Lord of the Iron Hills if you wanted to. Or technically, they could toss some points into Vengeance.
Yeah, Vengeance doesn't mess anything up.
Because it starts on round 5. It's after round 4. So you could toss some points into Vengeance if you don't want to use Lord of the Iron Hills. You're just doing full damage build. So again, the biggest thing that me and Jethro are trying to stress for you is the time when you put points in. It's such a weird thing they don't tell us in RiseToWar, is that it matters when you put points in, right? So now that we showed them the grit build, right, with the Ironfoot build, let's talk about the doing the grit build with just. Do you want to do it with just the skills, or you want to do the one that's just the skill build without using grit?
Just the skill build without grit.
Okay. So now
this is a really strong build as well.
Okay, so why don't we're going to talk about just without using grit. You're not focusing on grit, just all skill damage, all right? And the 2 different options between Whirlwind and All In. So I'm going to let Jethros take this one away because I think we know and tell the order of what they need to put their points in.
Yeah. I mean, definitely King Under the Mountain is going to get maxed out.
Just do it first, right? Okay, so we're going to max that out. All right.
Yep.
And then they can max out Durin's Blood, right?
Yes.
Because they're going to want to have that maxed out. Again, that won't matter with order because it doesn't act. It's just a buff.
That's not an actual skill that does damage, so not super important.
Again, I'm sorry about the lag. All right, so now that's maxed out. So then at this point, it's going to start mattering, though, again, but we're not using Dwarven Grit. So the only thing that matters in this lineup of skills is to think about one thing, and that's if you're going to use this skill, All In, you're really going to want to choose between All In and Whirlwind. I think Jethros recommends Whirlwind.
Yeah.
Because it's a double hit. So you guys could test it if you want to a little bit and see which one you like that does more damage. But the problem me and Jethros ran into was that the physical damage applying to more targets over a broader amount of hits with all the smaller abilities than All In and the Whirlwind AoE that hits 2 targets like that, is that it gives a higher chance of you doing more damage. Because if you do All In on a target that's about to die, you waste, it's painful. You waste a lot of damage. So again, Whirlwind's better because it's going to do 300%. But order matters here still. So, well, actually, it doesn't matter if they're not using All In, though, does it?
Right, if you don't
Unless
put
they're
a single
using
point into All In, then it doesn't matter at all.
Yeah. So at this point, again, you could just toss in points in the Whirlwind, and then toss in points in the Ironfoot, and then they could do its Open Wound, right?
Right. Well, I think that's probably what I would recommend without using All In, is maxing out Whirlwind, then Ironfoot, and then Open Wound.
Yeah. But if they were going to use All In, and they really wanted to use All In, what is the thing they have to remember about? And I'm going to click on it so they can see it here.
Basically, if you are using All In, you need to think about what's going to trigger after it. That's really, to simplify it, that's what you need to think about. So make sure that when you use all in, it's either the last skill you put a point into, so your auto attack, which does less damage than pretty much all of your skills, goes off after it, or a skill that you're putting just 1 point into, like open wounds, is coming after it, because open wounds with 1 point to get the healing reduction would only do 70% physical damage, which is actually less damage than your regular auto attack. So reducing that damage is better and less harmful than reducing your auto attack, but by not much. It's not the biggest deal, but this is optimization we're trying to talk about here. So
yeah, exactly.
Splitting hairs over the 30%.
And a lot of people might not realize this, but Vengeance does count as a skill.
Right.
But again, it doesn't matter quite as much in this case because it triggers on round 5, so you're not worrying about it. The only reason we're talking about this with All In is the fact that it triggers at the same time on round 4 as King Under the Mountain, Ironfoot, and Open Wound. They all trigger on round 4 at some point in the thing, unless one is dodged and then it moves it down the line. That's something you have to remember.
Well, if you're stunned. If it's dodged, it doesn't move it. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, definitely.
It just misses it, the attack.
Oh, that's true. That's my mistake. You're right. Good catch. So again, I think you guys probably got a pretty good idea. So again, what we would do here is, let's say I'm just not going to use All In. If I was going to use it, I would go ahead and put points into Ironfoot, right? Mm-hmm. And if I was only going to put 1 point into Open Wound just for the debuff, what I would do, since it's not going to be over 100% of your physical damage, like Jethro just explained, I would max out All In right now before Open Wounds, or at least put 1 point into it, because it matters with order, right? So if I put 1 point into it now I can go ahead and do Open Wound, because it'll trigger after All In, right? 1 point. That'll trigger after. And then I can go ahead and max All In, right? And then I'll have 1 extra point, so I'll probably toss it into Vengeance. And technically, you could toss some points if you don't want to use Vengeance later. If you want to use Whirlwind, you can
I would recommend Whirlwind. I think Whirlwind's a better skill.
I agree with Jethro. I think you put the rest of the points into Whirlwind if you're doing All In. Otherwise, reverse it. All the points in the Whirlwind.
Also, Whirlwind will never trigger, I don't think, on the same round as All In.
Yeah, exactly. True, because it triggers on round 3 and
6 and 9, and Whirlwind is just round 4 and 8.
Correct. I think we did it.
Yeah, unless the stuns move them around.
Yeah, exactly. I think we covered that pretty well, you guys.
Okay.
Hope you took notes. No?
Yeah, there's a lot to think about.
It's a lot. And again, you can do mix, match, and whatever you want to do. But again, you really need to be thinking about situation. Are you buffing your dwarves? Now, again, if you are rank 1, we'll just tell people real quick who are only rank 1, because I understand not everyone's going to be rank 5. You're going to do Lord of the Iron Hills. You're going to skip Fortify.
Right.
And you're going to put points into Ironfoot, possibly Vengeance, and 1 point in Open Wound, or max Open Wounds.
You'd have enough to do everything except the defending.
At level, true.
Yeah.
At 50, if you're only...
At 50,
Yeah, definitely.
And it's still a great build.
It is. He's still amazing. So, Dain is about as cool as he is in the story. He's a amazing, awesome... Buru Kazad, I menu.
Yeah, I'd say no matter how you build this guy, he's probably doing at least 120,000 damage.
Yeah. And now, I'm just going to toss in, because I want to finish the video up, so we'll just toss in one thing real quick. If you have really good gear for him, like this chest plate, that reduces damage for your dwarves even more, again, he's a great commander, right? And he's giving HP and attack to his dwarves, so you could do that, right? And then also, like this, makes my dwarves not be able to be stunned practically at all, and more defense. Great items if you're going to go the Dwarven Leader build. If you're going to go a damage build, an item like this, the Hammer of Moria, again, great for leading, gives your guys defense to survive. But this is very cool because one thing I found out, Jethro already knew this, but when we were talking, again, the wizard of lore in this game, 25% damage, this buffs your abilities too. A chance to buff your abilities and your autos. So this triggers on everything that he does.
Right.
So if you're using All In, there's a chance that your All In is going to get a 20%, well, in this case, because I have it once refined, increase to damage, right? Or your Whirlwind, or your other abilities. So again, an item like this can help him do a lot more damage with the damage builds. So keep that in mind. Or you could do something, that buffs your dwarves, like the Sax. More if you're doing leadership kind of style with him.
I'd say based on what we're seeing, if you want to have a lot of fun with all in, you probably could have all in hitting for somewhere around 70 to 75,000 damage.
Yeah.
And that goes off twice in a fight, so that could be very substantial.
Yeah, exactly. So, and then you could probably use that with Vengeance nicely too.
Yeah.
If you're doing just a lot of just
Yeah.
you max that out with Ironfoot. There's all sorts of fun things you guys can do. Have fun, experiment. I hope this helped you all out. Me and Jethro worked very hard and did our research before doing this video, so I hope it helped you guys out. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And you can also check out Jethro's channel. He's starting it up.
Yeah.
I'll leave a link down there. And I just want to do a quick shout out and thank you to my Patreon over there. Oh, over there. I'm reversed. MrRevel, thank you for supporting the channel.
Wow,
and
MrRevel is awesome.
Yeah, he is. He is very awesome, Jethro. So I appreciate his support. Thank you, guys. I appreciate your likes and subscribes. And you guys have a wonderful day in Middle Earth. And hope you kick some more butt with your dwarven powers. And whoever else you are. Everyone's welcome, of course. We love dwarves. All right. And King of the Dead.
I'm over here with all my focus items.
Exactly. All right, you guys. Well, thanks for joining me and Jethro's. Have a good one.
Jethro's out.
All right. Have a good day in Middle Earth, my friends.